What's up, everybody? Pastor Matt. Thanks for checking into the YouTube channel. Listen, I had an amazing experience at Christian college. I went to a Christian college when I was an undergraduate, went to Malone College, which is a broadly evangelical, fairly conservative Christian school, actually has roots with the modern day Quaker movement or the Evangelical Friends denomination. I went there from 1995 to 1999, graduated with my bachelor's in Bible and theology, had an amazing experience at Malone. In many ways, those were great days of thrill and joy and exuberance and studying God's word. Coming out of a non-denominational background at that time, didn't know a lot about the Evangelical Friends as a denomination, didn't know much about modern day Quakers at all. What I knew is that Malone was a conservative Bible-believing institution, and I was there to train, to cut my teeth on theology and Bible and how to study the Word of God at an academic level in preparation for pastoral ministry. Now, I was a commuter there for my 4 years, so I never really had that on-campus experience of living on a Christian campus, lived with my parents, worked my way through, had to go to a job in the evenings and had to do my homework late at night and write my papers, but had altogether amazing experience at Malone. And as I mentioned, in some ways, those were the good old days, as it were, for Christian colleges before the whole woke movement came into vogue. Most colleges that said they were Christian were Christian. At least that was my experience. We were in league with schools like Taylor and Cedarville and I don't know, Wheaton, other kinds of colleges like that. You could roughly put Malone College in that category if you're not familiar with Malone. But the reason I bring that up today is that there's this new article on the christianpost.com. I've got this up on my screen here. We're screen sharing and recording today. And the headline of the article is over 100 Christian colleges have ties to Planned Parenthood, according to a new report. Now, if you're like me, you are absolutely horrified by the possibility that 100 Christian colleges might have some tie, some affiliation to Planned Parenthood. And the reason that you should feel some horror in that is that Planned Parenthood, without any qualification, is one of the most evil organizations in the world. Planned Parenthood is in the business of killing children, that is aborting children for money. That's what they do. Planned Parenthood claims that it does other things for women's health. Maybe that's true to some extent, maybe it's not, but by and large, their money, their business, the way they get the green is through abortion. And so they are undoubtedly one of the world's most aggressive purveyors, promoters, and supporters of abortion for any cause, for any reason, for anyone whatsoever. Planned Parenthood has a massive stake in aborting children, your children, their children, Black children, white children, doesn't matter who. Planned Parenthood is for abortion. And so when I saw this article on Twitter, I said to myself, okay, I've got to go over to the Christian Post and read this article. Maybe what we can do is look at some of the data that they're combing through here and look at it ourselves. So we're going to do that in this video. By the way, thanks for checking in. My name is Matthew Everhard. I'm the pastor of Gospel Fellowship, PCA. We are a conservative, reformed, Bible-believing church, part of the PCA just north of Pittsburgh here in Western Pennsylvania. If you live anywhere in the area, we'd love to have you come over to worship with us in real life. We have 2 worship services now on the Lord's Day, 8:30 and 11 o'clock with Sunday school in between. Moreover, we are planting a church in the Evans City, Harmony, Zelienople area. So if you're anywhere in that area, please, 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 we would love your support and your participation in church planting in Evans City. All right, well, let's go ahead and get into the article here. And then we're going to comb through some of the data because I have a vested interest in looking through some of these schools to find out which ones are on this list. And so the article says over 100 Christian colleges have ties to Planned Parenthood, according to a report. Let's read some of that report. It says a new report reveals that more than 100 Christian colleges and universities in the United States have had ties to Planned Parenthood, the nation's largest abortion business in the past 2 years. The Institute of Pro-Life Advancements, a pro-life group called Students for Life of America, released a report detailing Planned Parenthood's relationship with Christian colleges and universities in the United States. Now, that in and of itself should be shocking to us. If you are a pastor, or if you are a parent or an elder or a deacon in a congregation, parent of college-age students, and you're even considering sending your child to a Christian institution, which you are going to pay massive dollars to support that Christian higher educational institution, you have every right to know what they promote, what they support, and what they believe. And as a parent, you should do everything you possibly can to dig into what this school actually says it believes, what it actually does, whether or not that's in accord with what it says it believes. You have every right to check that out. So I like this article. I'm interested in where it's going. And so here's what it says. It says the Institute for Pro-Life Advancement, the project of a pro-life group called Students for Life of America, released a report detailing Planned Parenthood's relationships with Christian colleges and universities in the United States in the past 2 years. Specifically, the report released last month analyzed all 278 colleges and universities that are affiliated with a Christian church, finding that 103 of the colleges have had some type of relationship with Planned Parenthood. Now, we're going to go to the report here in just a second, but let me read to you the way this report works so you understand what they mean by having a relationship with Planned Parenthood. It doesn't necessarily mean that they're supporting them with tuition or institutional dollars. It does mean, however, that there's some sort of tangential support or cooperation with Planned Parenthood in some way that you should necessarily be concerned about. You'd at least want to be aware of this if it were happening, right? So here's what the report does. Then we're going to look at it. In the report, schools received a grade on a scale of A+ to F based on the degree of their respective relationship with Planned Parenthood. Schools with 4 or more, quote, infractions, unquote, received an F, while schools with no infractions received an A. A letter grade was docked for each additional infraction up to 4. So, you start with an A, then you go B, C, D, E, or no, E, F, obviously. Schools that took the added step of promoting pro-life pregnancy centers as an alternative to Planned Parenthood were awarded an A+. So it sort of works on this principle that you're innocent until proven guilty. We'll give every school, all 700 plus of them, an A. And then every time we see them promoting Planned Parenthood as an ideal or as an institution or as a volunteer possibility or a on-life campus subgroup, whatever, we're going to dock you a letter grade down to F. So A, B, C, D, and F. All right. Let's go ahead and go to the report. I've got it up here on PDF and I've got my highlighter out here. So once again, this report is done by Students for Life of America. And what they did is it investigated all of the 784 colleges and universities affiliated with Christian churches in the United States. Now, was that number slightly different than what the report on Christian Post just said? I thought it was a different number. Either way, 784, that's what they're looking at. Now, the first part of this report, let's see, where do I want to put myself over here? It begins by describing their process. And it gives a bunch of charts at the beginning, and it looks at the various religious affiliations of the Christian schools that are under consideration. So you can see that 30% are Catholic, 13% are Baptist, Methodist, Presbyterian, and so on down the line. Now, I do want to make a note here about Presbyterian schools, 7% of the schools that they looked at. That is misleading in the sense that if you're in Presby world, as I am, then you should very well know that there is a vast degree of difference between Christian denominations that have the word Presbyterian in their title. In other words, if you're part of a PCA denomination, that's totally different belief set than the PCUSA, which is liberal, mainline, progressive, secularistic, though it retains the name of Presbyterian. The PCUSA is an extremely leftist, politically leftist, theologically progressive, almost entirely secular denomination, whereas the PCA is much closer to orthodox. It's conservative, Bible-believing, Westminster subscribing. So the fact that it's a school is called Presbyterian, that can be misleading to those that don't understand the differences, the nuances between Presbyterian denominations. And I'm sure that that's also true for Baptistic schools or Methodistic schools, although I don't know that there's as many conservative branches of Methodism as there are in Presby world. Either way, let's go ahead and look at some of this report here. Now, what did they consider to be participation with Planned Parenthood? Well, as I mentioned, it's not necessarily that they're funding Planned Parenthood, so that's not necessarily it. But universities are complex, right? They've got all kinds of ways that they cooperate with organizations of various kinds. For instance, they may set up internships. They may have places where you can get volunteer hours. They may allow subgroups that meet on the campus that are affiliated with other groups, ideals, ministries, cooperatives, whatever. And so this group here, they're basically looking for any relationship of promotion for Planned Parenthood and then grading them on the scale. So here's the breakdown of the religious affiliation of the schools that they looked at. See another chart here. Now this chart right here, what they call a victory tracker. This is interesting. What they did is when they found a Planned Parenthood promotion on their website or in their written materials or whatever, this group would then contact the school and ask them, are you aware of this? Are you aware that this is being promoted on your campus? And in some cases, the answer was no, we did not realize that this or that subgroup or this or that sub-college or whatever is promoting Planned Parenthood. And so if they informed the institution of this cooperation and they actually fixed it, they canceled the club, they moved the group, they removed the information for the website, whatever, they called that a victory. And those groups are then going to be subcategorized in this chart as well. Okay, so let's go ahead and get to, well, let's look at the religious affiliation of the A+ schools. Now, remember, to qualify as an A+ school, what has to happen is you have to have no promotion of Planned Parenthood, otherwise you'd be docked a letter grade. But you can only get this A+ grade right here if you also promote pro-life ministries as alternatives to pro-abortion propaganda through Planned Parenthood. So here you see that the Catholics 37%, Baptist 17%, Presbyterian 10%, leading the way as far as winning A+ grades according to their chart. Okay, so here's their conclusion. It says every university, no matter its religious or secular identity, should protect its students from the predatory abortion industry, from the propaganda portraying abortion as empowering or safe. Amen. Totally agree to that. But if Christian and Catholic colleges and universities do not lead the charge in rising to this challenge, secular leftist universities can hardly be expected to trailblaze the path forward. Of course, Christian schools must set the paradigm of respect for human dignity as it is in the scripture and tradition of the Judeo-Christian worldview and belief that human dignity finds its roots. All right, very good, very good. So let's go ahead and look at the schools. Now, first, we're going to look at the A+ Christian schools. Now, my eye is looking for certain schools. First of all, I want to know about Malone College. That's where I went to school. Are they going to be on the A+ list? Second of all, second school I'm going to look for is Ashland University. Now, I went to Ashland Theological Seminary for my master's degree, which is affiliated with Ashland University, which has brethren roots. So I'm definitely concerned for my two alma maters, Ashland and Malone College. But there's other schools that I'm interested in as well. So the first thing we're going to be looking for is schools that made the A+ list. And thankfully, there are quite a few of them. We notice here Cedarville University gets an A+. So does Cornerstone University in Michigan. My best friend in the world, John Marco, is one of the deans over there at Cornerstone. So I'm thankful for that. Covenant College in Georgia. Now there we go. See, there's a PCA related school. That's not a PCUSA college right there. That's PCA. That's us. That's our team. So good, excellent. Very glad to see that, winning an A+. Hillsdale College, not a big surprise right there. Liberty University gets an A+. And here we go. Thankful for this. Malone College of Ohio gets an A+. Now, did Ashland? Yes, they did. Ashland came in there as well. These are in alphabetical order. So it doesn't mean that these are higher ranked necessarily. These are all rated A+ schools. Going down through the list, who else is of note here? Regent University, quite a few Catholic universities. I don't know so many of these down here at the bottom of the list, but as far as the ones that I'm mostly concerned with, there they are on the A+. So thank you, Malone College, Malone University, as it is now called. Thank you, Ashland University. Thank you, Covenant College, for making the A+ list. Again, that means not only did you not promote Planned Parenthood, but you did actively promote pro-life alternative ministries. Excellent for that. Now, if you get to a B-level infraction school, that means that you at least promoted Planned Parenthood one time in your literature, your on-campus groups, or your promotional materials, whatever. Here's Baylor, big school right there. American University is on that list as well. If you went to some of these schools, you should be a little bit more concerned. That means there's some promotion of Planned Parenthood. Now we get worse, down to the C-level infraction schools. Davidson College is listed there. Virginia Wesleyan University. Luther College in Iowa is listed as a C school. Getting worse and worse now. We're into the D-level infractions. Cornell University. Wittenberg in Ohio is there. Finally, let's get down to the Fs. Now, if you get an F, man, this is not good news. Parents, if you are out there and you are seeing your child's school's name on this list, this is absolutely reason for concern. I would be calling the faculty. I would be complaining to the leadership of the institution. And so here are the F-level schools: Augsburg Central College in Iowa, Duke University, massive United Methodist school there, Elizabethtown, Emory, Hamlin, Mallister, never heard of it, Moravian College in PA, Pacific Lutheran, Rhodes College, St. Michael's College, St. Olaf College. All of those are on the shameful Planned Parenthood promotion F grade list, as well as Lafayette, Mellenberg College, Ohio Wesleyan, another United Methodist school, gets an F+. Look at this, a couple of F+ listed there as well. Now, these are the victory schools. It gives a list of the victory schools as well. And again, remember what we said about a victory school is that was the one where this group doing the research, they found some promotion of Planned Parenthood. So what they did is they went back to the leadership of the university. They said, hey, are you sure about this? Do you mean to be promoting this? Christian schools that took Planned Parenthood off their website and broke their ties with the abortion giants after being notified of the relationship, their website are considered victoried Christian schools. In other words, they got rebuked, they corrected themselves, and thankfully this list is some 34 institutions long. So a bunch of these schools right here. If you see your child's school's name on this list, that means they were called out on what they were promoting, and thankfully they took a step back. Now the list goes on. It shows a bunch of schools that had maybe one infraction and or no. Let's see, what are we looking at here? This is the longest list. A-level infraction schools means that they had either no infractions on their website or they cut ties with Planned Parenthood when notified, but these schools were not in promotion of pro-life alternatives. Okay, so they backed off, or they never had any pro-abortion propaganda through Planned Parenthood, but neither did they necessarily promote pro-life alternatives. So they get an A, and that list is quite long here. Scrolling through this, we see it's in the hundreds. Wow, long, long list here. Scrolling down, 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 down. 300, 400 schools. Do I hear 500? 500 schools. Do I hear 600 schools. 666 schools. Sure, that's totally coincidental. Are schools that don't have any overt infractions of promotion of Planned Parenthood, but nevertheless are not promoting pro-life alternative ministries either. Okay, so there's the data. Now, I think it would be best for you to go ahead and look at this article yourself. Go ahead and look at this data yourself. Feel free to comb through it. Again, I found this on christianpost.com. Title of the article, 100 Christian schools have ties to Planned Parenthood, by Ryan Foley. And the date of this is January 5th, 2022. So you want to look up that article for yourself. You can look through the data. Now, what can we say about all this? Well, at the very least, parents need to know. At the very least, parents should be aware of what's going on, concerned, yes, actively involved, perhaps part of the kickback to these schools that are promoting Planned Parenthood, most certainly, no question about that. Now, I'm a parent actually of not just one, but two college-age children. I have one who's a sophomore, going to be a junior here soon in nursing school, another one that's going to be in college next year. And we actually did not choose to go to the Christian college route. And I know that some of you would say, why not? Well, here's the reason. It had to do with my first child, my oldest child, A+ student, incredible grades, had hundreds of volunteer hours. We tracked everything for her. We were assuming that she would get a full ride or better for whatever Christian college she wanted to. Daughter of a pastor, tons of missions experience. And what we found is most of the schools that we looked at were so expensive that they were cost prohibitive, even with the college scholarships that she would have otherwise gotten. So my daughter, she applied to a number of schools, a couple of which we've named here on this list. She got scholarships for every single one of them. Great scholarships. However, when the final price tag came in, man, it was just way, way too stinking expensive. It didn't have to do with liberalization. It didn't have to do with going woke. It didn't have to do with leftist propaganda. What it did have to do with was the cost was just absolutely overwhelming for us. So let me just run a couple of numbers with you. Almost every one of the schools she applied for, she got in, no problem. And no sooner did she apply, she got letters informing us of her scholarships. And most of the time she got $20,000 to $25,000 in scholarships. And of course, we were at first overjoyed about this, rejoicing. And then we go in to do in-person interviews, sit down, talk to some financial people, find out that the school actually costs $45,000. Maybe they're going to give her 20, but the school is going to cost 25,000. Or maybe they're going to give her 25,000, but it costs 45,000. In every single one of these instances, my daughter was going to come out with either $80,000 to $100,000 worth of debt. And I just didn't want to do that. I didn't think that was right. It didn't feel right to me. Maybe your family is in a different position than my family was in. But we looked at the money and we said, no way, even with these top flight scholarships, taking out $20,000 in student loans for a total of $80,000 over 4 years or $100,000 over 4 years. That's like a house. My wife and I, we bought our first house for $57,000. We bought our second house for $110,000. To come out of school with that much debt, it was a no-brainer for us. So here's what we did instead. We sent our daughter to community college. Now, we just so happen to live on the backside of an outstanding community college in our area. And so my oldest daughter, she's a nursing student there. My son is going to go into business school there. And we're talking about $8,000 for a year rather than $45,000 for a year. So, I mean, you do the math on that. I want my kids coming out of school with almost no debt, if any debt at all. Now, my wife and I, we worked hard to save for each one of our kids. We have 3 kids and we put money away. We've been stocking money away for them since the time they were born. And each one of these children now in their college savings fund that we provided for them, they have enough money to go to community college on us because we saved since the time they were little. So my kids are going to get degrees in practical things. My daughter's going to be a nurse. She's going into nursing. She's going to come out ready to go with all of her licensures and certificates that she's going to need. If she wants to do the bachelor's degree and finish it up, she can go half an hour up the road and finish up at a state school that last year. And she can come out making $60,000, $75,000, $80,000 working as a nurse, whatever she finds doing, making money rather than coming out with that much money in debt. The same thing we're going to do with my son. He doesn't quite have direction necessarily to go, so he's going to go to business school. He can finish up down the road at a state college with his bachelor's degree. But his first year, he's going to go for pennies on the dollar versus some of these Christian schools. Now, again, I had an absolutely incredible experience at Christian school. I honestly don't know how I made it through, to be real with you. I got big scholarships as well. I got the J. Walter Malone Scholarship when I went to Malone, which was the second best scholarship that the school offered. And I don't know how I did it. I don't know how the money worked out. My parents paid some. I worked my way through. The school gave me great scholarships. So thanks to Malone for that. But we looked into Malone for my daughter, and it was just incredibly cost prohibitive. So we had to look a different direction, even with all the scholarship money they were going to throw at her. So I would say this, look, Christian school is awesome if you can afford it. The parents, you do have to be very, very aware of what it is you're paying for. In some cases, you may be paying for something that's the exact opposite of what do you think is a Christian education. So be wise to it. Be very, very careful what you're paying for. Look through their materials. Find out if they're woke. Find out if they're pro-abortion. Find out if they're secular, despite the fact that they claim to be Christian. Because the last thing you would ever want to do is strap your kids to a massive amount of debt for an education that isn't actually Christian, and in fact, maybe everything in the opposite direction from that. And they're going to come out with this unbearable load of debt that they're going to have to repay at some point. All right. Well, that's my opinion on that. Thank you so much for checking into this video. Do love you lots, and we'll talk to you later.